WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Communications Channel 16 proudly present the We Should Know Show, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative. Celebrating 15 years of bringing you the We Should Know Show, here's your host, J.W. Simmons.
Welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. The name of the show is We Should Know. My name is J.W. Simmons. I'm your host. Each and every week, we try to bring you a show that's about information and education, about things that you need to know something about. Therefore, we called it We Should Know. Today, we're in that specific place that I definitely think we all need to know more about, and that's the State Treasurer of North Carolina, and Treasurer Brad Briner is with us today. Brad, thank you for coming down and having a conversation about what you do and, more importantly, why you're doing it.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, I want to start out just to give everybody a little bit of information about you. You've got a broad background in the financial world. You're co-chief of the investment officer for Willett Advisors. And for folks that don't know who that is, it's people like Mike Bloomberg, multi-billionaire, just working with his philanthropy investments. You've done that. Morgan Creek Capital, UNC Management, ArcLight Capital, Goldman Sachs. That's just in the experiential world.
Sure.
Then when I look at academics, University of North Carolina, Moorhead Scholar with a degree in economics with distinction. You also received your Master's of Business Administration from Harvard Business School. You currently serve on the Board of Trustees as Chairman of the Investment Committee for Phillips Exeter Academy. It goes on and on and on. Brad, I gotta ask, all of the things you've been involved in, and with the examples of the degrees with what you've been involved in finance, I'm amazed and thankful we have somebody with your expertise leading this organization with the state of North Carolina.
Well, first of all, you're way too kind. Thank you. It's incumbent on all of us to take our gifts that God's blessed us with and do the best we can with them, whatever they are. And through a lot of experiences early in my life, I realized what my gifts were and what my interests are. And they've always been around managing money and helping people with their finances. So going way back, that was just about my family. Mm-hmm. I'm married, I've got 4 kids, and we all worry about putting food on our own table. And I was blessed enough to get to a point where I didn't have to worry about that as much anymore. Mm-hmm. And then you start to ask yourself the question, when I run into St. Peter and he asks me, what did I do with my gifts? Yeah. What's my answer going to be? Yeah. And as I thought about that, and I thought about the opportunity to serve the state, it was a pretty natural fit. So bringing the skills that I've been blessed with to the state of North Carolina is something that's really been the capstone of a career for me.
Well, one of the things strikes me, and of course I've done a lot of reading and a lot of looking at videos you have done, and there was a commentary you made on one of the videos as it related to when you were working with Bloomberg, and one of the comments I recall you made is that Bloomberg apparently, due to yours and others' guidance, had invested and made some very positive income marks. And when that was presented to him, you said, and I'm going to try to quote as much as I can, he looked at you and said, okay, well, that's great. I'm glad we've made that much money. Now, what we're going to do with it? And that was, to me, a pretty profound statement, especially as you look at North Carolina.
Absolutely. And there's a little bit of a tone difference even. It was more, I don't even know what to do with all this money. Not like help me do something good with it. It was, wow, great, and dismissive almost. And that really set me on the path of saying, wow, man, we're doing a great job for him, but maybe there's someone better that I could do a great job for, because it needs to matter, right? In the end, we all want our work to matter. And that moment, it didn't feel like it mattered so much. The good news for the people in North Carolina is we're having another one of those years in 2025. It's been fantastic. If you roll back to April and the tariffs and everything that was going on at that time, and you asked me or you asked anyone in this business, how do you think 2025 is going to go? I would have given you a very different answer. But here we sit in September, and what I think people are realizing is two things. One, the Trump administration is pretty interested in helping America and helping the companies of America. Mm-hmm. And two, artificial intelligence, and we should talk about that, really changes the game. And if you got both those things right this year, you've done really well. And so for the citizens of North Carolina, we've made almost $13 billion in the pension system this year, which erases the vast majority of the deficit we had to begin with. And I'm pretty proud of that, but it comes out of my team's efforts and out of the experiences that I've had over a long period of time.
One interesting thing that hit me also as I was looking at one of your news releases, and it was talking about 170, was it million or thousand or
$1 million
that you found that was there, and apparently nobody had really identified it. But it's kind of hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah, and I don't want to trivialize $170 million in any way because it matters and it really will make a difference for our state. But for the average state employee, this is like finding $300 in your kitchen drawer.
Absolutely.
Right? Just to put it in context.
Absolutely.
So it's a real amount of money, but $170 million is hard to even wrap your head around. But relative to income, it's about $300. And it's a little bit like your kitchen junk drawer is the way that it's accumulated for the state of North Carolina. It happens rarely, but it does happen when people build buildings, they come in under budget. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you do with that in the state context? Because the people who wanted the building got the building. People who appropriated the money weren't asked for anymore. And so where does the rest go? Well, again, it doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. And it turns out it ends up in an escrow account and it earns interest. And it's small dollars to begin with, but that snowball keeps rolling over years. We stopped looking after the first entry we found was 25 years old into this account. And it kind of didn't matter beyond that. It's been going on a long time, and it's just small dollars that added up. A lot of credit to my state and local government team who, in combing through the state's financials, found this on page 364. Wow. And there's well over 400 pages. So it's a complicated place, the state of North Carolina. There's a lot of complicated things going on, and there are a lot of great public servants trying to track them all down. So we knew that this existed. We just didn't know what it was or what it could be used for. And what we really discovered there was that we didn't have to leave it in that account. We didn't have to leave it in the kitchen drawer. We could actually take it out, pay down the debt of the state. If the legislature or the people want to issue new bonds to do something else, whether that's build highways or schools or anything, we can do that in the future, and we'll have more capacity to do that by cleaning out the kitchen junk drawer. So here we are. We're, that was a fun one to report because I think a lot of people are like, wait, what? Now, commentary on the media generally.
Yeah.
I got about 5 calls on this, and all of them began with the same question. Whose fault is this? And I just...
Back to the blame issue.
I just do not approach the world that way.
No.
This is only good news. This is my team doing great work. North Carolina is better off today for them having done that great work. And so I just refuse to answer that question because, frankly, there is no answer. It's been a lot of people who overlooked a couple bucks here, a couple bucks there, and it added up to a lot over a long period of time.
Something else that you spearheaded that interests me, and I'm kind of getting some of these things that I want to talk about a bit, but I want to make sure we cover what you want to talk about. But since you've been in office, you spearheaded a somewhat of a change in the, how should I put it, bureaucracy. We now have a board. Tell us how that works and why that is so important, Brad.
Sure. So this goes way back to the beginning of our retirement system. And our retirement system's got, as of this morning, about $138 billion in it. So it's a lot of money. And that supports hundreds of thousands of checks every month out to our retirees and then all of our current employees who are accruing retirement benefits. So that supports all that. It really matters. And we've managed that the same way for a long, long time. And the model that it was called is sole fiduciary. But think of it as one person making all the decisions. That was the model that every pension fund started with 100 years ago because it was the only thing that really made sense. Over time, I think most states have realized 2 things. The first is that putting that much power in one person can be pretty dangerous, Right now, we have been blessed with wonderful public servants in North Carolina, so we've never had that issue. But there are 3 states that remain in this sole fiduciary model: North Carolina, New York, and Connecticut. New York and Connecticut each have a former treasurer in jail. Why? Abuse of power, because the system is set up to almost facilitate abuse of power. So that's one reason, is just to take that risk off the table. And again, it's a risk we've never actually faced, but we could theoretically face. The second is going back to April. April was a tough month, right? The stock market dropped 5% a couple different days. I get a daily report. And when you see, and unfortunately I've had this experience before in life, but you learn from it, when you see that you've lost $1 billion in a single day because the stock market went down, it makes you sick to your stomach. The natural reaction to being sick to your stomach or burning your finger on the stove is to take your hand off the stove or to stop eating what caused you to be sick. And unfortunately, in the investment business, that's almost always the wrong reaction. What you're supposed to do, it's hard, is to keep going, is to add more capital after you've taken a hit. And fortunately, we did that. But that's not a typical behavior of an individual. Boards are better at that. Boards tend to slow things down a little bit. We've constructed a small board. Big boards slow things down way too much.
Right.
I'm actually on a board of 22 right now, which is just too many people to make effective decisions. We put in place a board of 5, where you still have dispersed power, so you have that deliberative process, but it's concentrated enough that you'll actually get things done. So that model goes into effect January 1st. We expected that people would require a lot more education on this topic to make it successful in the legislature, because it is a little bit esoteric and it's a little bit confusing as to why you'd want to be less decisive. We were really pleased with our reception. People got it instantaneously. In part, North Carolina's history of investment performance hasn't been very good. We've been very conservative, and conservative is a good thing, and I am a conservative, but there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. So the way I talk about it is, I've got 2 daughters who recently learned to drive. Not so recently now, one's 18, one's 17. The first one's a classic firstborn risk taker. When she'd get on the highway, she'd go 85 miles an hour. And that's a problem. You don't need to explain that problem.
Yeah.
Well, the next one's the opposite. And she'd get on the freeway and go 45. And that's conservative, right? But that's a problem too.
Yeah.
And so you've got to keep up to some degree with the flow of traffic so that you're not creating new and different problems. When you're not taking enough risk in your investment portfolio, you leave yourself exposed to not keeping up to inflation. And sure enough, that's what we've been doing. So we have been 50th in the country out of the 50 states in investment performance for decades. We got to fix that. That underpins the promise to our retirees.
Absolutely.
And we got to make that better, and this is the way that we do that. So the Investment Modernization Act was passed unanimously by the House, unanimously by the Senate, signed into law by the governor in June, and it'll go into effect January 1st, because we've got a lot of work to do to set up the investment authority that will take care of that. And the whole point is simple, and that's to raise our long-term return from 5% to 6.5%. Sounds simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. And if you go on our website, you'll see how we're doing. And as I was saying earlier, we're having a pretty good year, so I think we're off to a good start.
When we come back from this break, I want to kind of follow up on that analogy a little bit and help us understand how hard it is to find that correct speed.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. We're talking with Brad Briner, the treasurer of the state of North Carolina. Call a friend. We'll be back in a moment.
Welcome to Cork and Brew Roseboro, where you can enjoy your favorite coffee, fraps, smoothies, bakery items, sandwiches, and select beer and wines while reconnecting with friends and family. Sit down and enjoy the experience. Come on by and give us a try.
We find in life that some things just go together. Like peanut butter and jelly, cheese and crackers, steak and potatoes, and of course, milk and cookies. But the bottle and the throttle are never a good combination. Be smart. Be safe. Be responsible. Don't drink and drive.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We Should Know It's on there. J.W. Simmons here, your host. Thank you again for being with us today. We're continuing our conversation with Brad Briner, the treasurer of the state of North Carolina. Mr. Treasurer, when we went to break, you used an analogy I thought was right on point, and that's trying to find that specific, I'll call it the sweet spot, where you need to be, particularly as it relates to investments. How do you find that? And there is a sense, as you pointed out, and I thought was right on target, particularly for me. I have this situation of oftentimes being way too conservative.
Yeah.
You know, it's not almost like somebody says, well, I was just going to take some money, or I'm going to buy gold coins and put it in the, you know, but you can't do that and grow, can you?
No. You need to have an appreciation for what you need to make and what the likely rate of return for what you're buying is. It is kind of investing 101, but it's very common that people just look in the rearview mirror and say, all right, what happened? That's going to happen. Sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not. You need to have a critical view of whether it's going to happen or something different is going to happen. When you look at valuations of different securities you can buy, they tell you what the forward-looking rate of return is, generally speaking. It's not always right. But in the bond market, right, you have an interest rate. You know exactly what you're supposed to earn, assuming that the bond matures, which most of them do. Stocks, there's valuations. Mm-hmm. They're telling you what you're paying for per dollar of earnings. Mm-hmm. And it'll give you some sense of your forward-looking rate of return. So it comes back to, what do I need to make? And the later you are in your life, the less you probably need to make. The earlier you are, the more. And same is true for a pension fund. We have what's called an actuarial cost. We're supposed to make 6.5%. It's very clear. And we have all sorts of consultants and people who help us think about how we're going to make 6.5%. I think the goal for our pension system is to make 6.5% first and to take as little risk as possible to do so. So when we have such a great year, what we can start doing is de-risking. This AI train, the hype train, has left the station. And there's obviously very real pieces to it. But, you know, I started my career in the dot-com bubble. So I keep looking for that. I'm not sure we're to the end of the AI bubble here, but it's certainly inflating. Oracle is a great example of this. It's a great company. It's a legacy company. It's been around 50 years. Last night, they reported that they were doing better in AI than they thought. And that's great. The stock is up over 30% today. It has added almost $200 billion of value based on just a little more AI revenue than people thought. So we're getting there to the end of the AI bubble, but again, it is powerful technology and you just got to be careful. I think for anyone who is an investor who is thinking about what the right thing to do is here, just be careful. Don't get caught up in it. The hardest part of being an investor is the emotional self-control of it, fear and greed. You know, it's always one or the other. Yeah. And managing those emotions is the best advice I have for people.
And you mentioned AI. I want to follow up on that. Yeah. Is there an end to AI? Will it just continue to expand? The big conversations that I'm reading is about the depth and how much it's going to expand. We keep thinking, well, okay, I can type this in and get a, fact check everything, but get all this listed information. But now they're saying, wait a minute, it's going to become more accurate. It's going to become more in-depth. It's going to give us information quicker. That affects every quadrant of society and economic status.
Yeah. So, you know, without going way back into history, you know, the Luddites are, right? Yeah. These were the folks in the 18th century who destroyed all the machines in the textile mills in England because they didn't want to lose their jobs. And it turned out over time that they got better jobs as a result of it. And so that analogy is always powerful as technology gets adopted. You know, one of the big pieces of hype 10 years ago was autonomous driving. We still don't really have purely automated driving. And, you know, one of the reasons for that is it turns out that taking technology and pairing it with humans is usually better than either of them alone. Mm-hmm. And I think the same will be true with AI, where what we're doing, and you think about the accounting profession or any other profession where you're dotting I's and crossing T's and you need to get all your details right. This will assist in that in a material way. It'll help people be more productive. We ran a big AI pilot in the Department of State Treasurer. Now, one of the threshold issues around artificial intelligence is its access to your data, and particularly when you have private data. So we ran that trial in our divisions that do not have private data. So state and local government, we're dealing with audited financial statements of municipalities throughout the state. And then unclaimed property, where you can go on our website, nccash.gov, and just search for your own property. So all that data is already public. Mm-hmm. And we used AI in both those divisions to see how it can make us more productive. Sure enough, we found about a 10% productivity growth across all the employees who used it. But even better, they're just happier in their jobs. Because what they were doing is outsourcing to ChatGPT, in this case, the mundane. The Google searches over and over again to find someone's address, to see if this is their unclaimed property. Well, AI's better at that anyway, and happy to do it for you.
And in seconds.
In seconds, fractions of a second. And it allows you to do the hard part, the interesting part. And in this case, in unclaimed property, to call that person. Yeah. Have a conversation and be like Ed McMahon with Publishers Clearinghouse and offer them a big check. That's a lot more fun and a lot more interesting. And it makes for better job satisfaction and higher productivity. That's the win in all this, if we can get there. The threshold issue, though, that is really hard and we got to be very thoughtful about crossing is, how do you take AI and use it to help you when you have private and confidential data, without the risk of that leaking into one of the models and therefore into the public domain? We have not solved that question yet. We will get to an answer to that question over time. We got to be very careful. I know a lot of businesses are already doing this, but we're government. We got to be even more careful. Healthcare is an obvious one. If you think about a lot of the costs in healthcare that people complain about, rightly so, they're duplications. Where you go to a general practitioner, they order a test, they send you to a specialist, they order the same test because they just don't know. And if we can bring artificial intelligence to the healthcare data of the world, I think there's a lot of value that we can create for the patients. But of course, with privacy rules and concerns, we got to be very, very careful about ever crossing that line. So we're not anywhere close to doing that. But we'll get there eventually and really unleash the power of AI in a lot of other ways too.
I think that, and when we look at that whole world, we start hearing about data centers and the amount of just electricity is required. And of course, some communities are pushing back already, as you know, on that. Yeah. And I'm thinking at some point in time, we've got to be able to accept that transition and feel comfortable with it. And to your point, I think education now has made a broad leap forward with AI. This is just 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. Some of my superintendents was a little bit, well, I'm not sure. And now it's like, we're all in.
Yeah. I'm on the board of a school. It's a private school out in North Carolina. And 6 months ago, we had a board meeting and we spent a lot of time talking about AI. We did a survey of the faculty, and this was an educated guess, but I think it's pretty close. We thought that half of the faculty's strategy for dealing with AI was to pretend it didn't exist. That's the wrong answer. Wow. So, in a lot of professions that's going on is head in the sand, ostrich style. But over time, we're getting to the point where people are realizing this can actually help me be better at my job. It can help my clients, whoever they are, whether they're students or in any other business, have a better outcome. So embracing that is a little challenging. Inertia is always powerful. But the use cases across every industry are manifest, and you see them anywhere you look. My daughters use AI all the time. Particularly my oldest is a very verbal person. Mm-hmm. And so what is an amazing function of AI is to take a text, drop it into Notebook LLM, it's called, and it'll create a podcast of two people talking about that text. It is an amazingly powerful way for her to learn, meets her where she is, allows her to flourish in the classroom in ways that she couldn't have even considered 2 years ago.
I think we're learning, and from the social psychological point of view, one of the concerns also exists is not becoming so relation oriented with AI that you think I really have a friend here. And That gets a little bit weird for me because I look at people and go, how could you make, that is not a human being you're talking about. But at the same time, factually speaking, and you mentioned in medicine, in the medical world, it's almost like you can fact check your doctor. Absolutely. You go to AI and you just say, well, let's start to see if what he said and what AI said. And many times it's amazing. It's right on point. And then sometimes it's, well, maybe I didn't know that alternative was there.
Right. No, and I think the medical community is embracing it to fact check themselves. I mean, if you think about what we put the average medical student through in terms of the rote memorization of so many things about the complex chemistry experiment that is the human body, there's got to be a better way. And utilizing AI to help with medicine in so many ways. We're just on the forefront of that. And I'm excited about the possibilities there because we all know, and we should talk about the state health plan, we all know we have a huge healthcare cost problem on our hands. Costs keep going up for everyone in every way. Outcomes don't seem to get better. How are we going to untangle that knot? AI certainly will be part of it.
I think that's, to me, when I look at your job, that's going to be one of the largest challenges.
Yes.
And hopefully, I'm going to say one of your biggest successes because I believe you're going to find a way through that.
I certainly hope so. So we run the state health plan. That is the state insurance program for 770,000 North Carolinians, state employees, former state employees, and all of their dependents. And like every health care system, we have costs accelerating faster than revenues. And what are we going to do about it? That's the essence of the challenge. When we came in office, we inherited a $507 million deficit for 2026. That's a lot of money, but put it in context, the entire state budget was expected to grow $300 million next year. So if we needed 500 and there was only 300 in total for everything in the state available, a state, by the way, which is still recovering from a devastating hurricane in the West where we need some money, we realized pretty quickly we couldn't ask the legislature for all that money. So we did ask them for some. They were very generous in giving us $150 million to solve that problem. And we went to the providers and said, hey, we need you guys to help us too to balance the books because we're no good to you if we're not around in 2026 or 2027. They were helpful. And we extracted a lot of concessions from many of them. And then we had to go to the state employees. For the first time in 8 years, we are going to raise premiums for state employees. That hasn't won me many friends, I know that, but the only way I know to do hard things is to be honest and open and candid about why we're doing them and hope people respect that. And I'm sure some people won't, and I hope many people will. But that puts us on a path to actually have a state health plan in the future, which is where we've got to be. So now that we're kind of through 2026 and solving the short-term problem of putting out the fire, we're really turning the page to thinking about how do we reinvent healthcare to the extent that we can as the state health plan. 770,000 people is a lot of people, but in the context of 11 million North Carolinians and 375 million Americans, it's not that many. The healthcare system has got huge problems that I'm not sure we can solve all on our own.
I think one of the things that you mentioned that and we could follow up on is that whole thing of duplicity.
Yes.
So we're going to take a quick break. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. We're talking with the state treasurer. Call a friend. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
How can your friend save you money? It's easy. Refer a relative, coworker, neighbor, or friend to Star Communications. Friend signs up for high-speed internet service. Friend's new account is confirmed. Friend gives your name to our service representative as the one who referred them to Star. You receive a $30 internet credit. It's just that simple. And even better, receive a $30 internet credit for every referral that results in a new confirmed account. High-speed internet from Star Communications. Refer a friend today.
Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
Since our inception, we have distributed in food and supplies over $3 million worth out of Salemburg, North Carolina. And people always ask us, what can we do to help? So Norman has got some little slide cards here so we can tell you what we do need and maybe, as importantly, what we don't need.
Absolutely.
So, what we do need is soup, canned soup, ramen. What we do not need is hair tonic or hairspray. There's only one of us that uses hair tonic, and he has an ample supply. But we do need rice. We distribute rice every month. Bag rice, box rice, yellow rice, white rice, don't make any difference. We need rice all the time. What we don't need is live pigs. If you want to have that pig ready to barbecue, we can use that. But we do need canned vegetables. We'll take corn, beans, any kind of canned vegetables. We distribute about 2,000 cans of vegetables every month. What we don't need is chia pets. Sometimes early in the morning, Norman looks like a chia pet, so we don't need, particularly before he puts his hair tonic on. But we do need peanut butter and jelly. There's a lot of children at home. We use peanut butter and jelly, again, 12 months out of the year. Any size jar, any flavored jelly, grape, apple, it don't make any difference. We'll take any of it. We do not need sushi. The fish around here says, please cook me and lard. We don't need sushi. But we do need Pop-Tarts. Children at home, they eat Pop-Tarts. We need Pop-Tarts all the time. We do not need used tires. That may come as a surprise to some folks, but Norman has decided to bring his used tires around his belly. That's where he hauls his all the time. Send checks to the Christian Food Bank of Salemburg, P.O. Box 134, Salemburg, North Carolina, 28385. And Norman has a little note there that says cash is as good as money. So that's how you can help us.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We Should Know's on there. J.W. Simmons here, your host. We're coming to you on Star Communications TV, Channel 16. We're simulcast on WCLN Radio, covering a number of counties here and throughout the country. In fact, uploaded to social media platforms and YouTube. We're covering the world from Little Clinton, North Carolina, the largest landscape in the state, we tell people. Brad, thank you for being with us today. The state treasurer is in the house, should I say. Brad, you know, our conversation off camera sometimes gets to be bigger than a conversation on camera. But we ended the conversation a while ago with this idea of healthcare, where it was going, the impact, and some of the hard decisions you had to make when you stepped into this. Keep in mind, I want folks to understand, you've just been in this job since January. Now, when you look at it and the amount of things that's already happened, and you fine-tuning this engine, healthcare was one of the biggest pieces of that.
No doubt about it. Yeah, healthcare was the four-alarm fire from January 1st. We had to fix 2026, and we didn't really want to go to the employees and ask them for more. The state health plan has been such a wonderful benefit for state employees, and it still is. We were charging $25 per member per month. Just for some context, if you're in the corporate world today, and we looked at all the biggest employers in North Carolina as we came to this number, and you're paying an individual premium per month, whichever one is, that's about $180. So the comparison of 25 to 180, really good for the state employees.
Big margin.
Now we went up to 35, so it's less of a big margin, but it's still an enormous margin. So I think the state health plan remains a fantastic bargain for our employees. And it's going to get better on the benefit side. That's the next chapter for us. How are we going to do that? There's two primary ways that we're thinking about changing the state health plan. The first is to benefit mostly the patient, but also the plan from the scale that we have. We've inappropriately done that so far. Most of the healthcare business is a fixed cost business, right? Think of it as an airline, right? You have the vast majority of your costs in the airplane. And if you run it half full, that's not a great business. If you run it full, it's a great business. Same is true in healthcare. Most of your expenses in the hospital. It's in the MRI machine. It's in the capital equipment. The more you can use that, the better it is for everyone. So where the state health plan comes in is we've got a tremendous number of patients. So if you've got an operating room and you've got a great surgeon who is only utilized 80% of the time, we can take it to 100. Guess what? That surgeon does better. Guess what? They can lower the price for all of us. This is how we're going to create a design where our patients win because they get better access to people. They also won't have copays to go to those people who sign up for us. The state health plan wins because we're going to get lower prices by having more volume. And the provider wins too, because volume times price is what matters. It's not just price. So they can lower price if they get more volume. So we're going to leverage scale. That's the first thing that we haven't done a great job of historically. We've entered into a partnership with a firm called Lantern. And so going forward, and we're just finalizing who the winners of this competition will be shortly. If you need a non-emergency surgery, and so I think I need shoulder surgery as an example, I'm going to get a referral from my orthopedist to say I need this procedure. Lantern's going to call me and say, if you are willing to go to this provider, and by the way, they're the best provider for this, it's free to you. No copay, no coinsurance, nothing. If you still want to go to the person you've seen before, you can certainly do that. It's the same price as it's always been, but you're going to save $1,000 if you go to the one we recommend. And they are a fantastic provider, but it's your choice. So the member, in this case me, is going to say, well, I can save $1,000. I can get as good, if not better, a procedure done. Why wouldn't I do that? I might have to drive an extra 10 miles or 30 miles, but $1,000, I'll do that. That's great for me. For the state health plan, instead of paying $75,000 for my shoulder surgery, we're going to pay $40,000. And that's how we get savings. That's the win-win for everybody in all of this that we've got to explore much more fully. The second path is we've got to invest in people. We have people for life in the state health plan. They're going to be ultimately retirees on healthcare. And therefore, we can think about the long term. We can think about investing in you today to save you a lot of heartache and trouble in the future, but also has the effect of saving costs for the state health plan too. So one of the ways that we're not doing that right now, that we're really trying to figure out a way to get back to, is the weight loss medications. It's no secret that carrying around an extra 50 or 100 pounds is a real problem in the long run.
Diabetes and other diseases.
Heart disease, number one killer in the U.S. still, among many other complications. The weight loss medications, the GLP-1s, are amazing. It is not a panacea in its own right. You can't just give people GLP-1s and expect everything to change. It does help. So you got to put a whole weight management program around them. You got to change behaviors as well, and hopefully these drugs help do that. But that's the ultimate long-term investment in people. If you keep them lighter and substantially so, the data will tell you that that is worth almost anything you pay for it right now. And those drugs help us do that. So we've got to invest in people for the long run and make sure that they're healthy for their own sake, for their family's sake, but also for the plan's sake too. So those are the two major changes that we've got to drive, leveraging our scale and investing in people for the long run. And we've got endeavors on both of them going on.
And I think the key point that I picked up in that conversation there is that the quality of that service is equal to or even better than what somebody maybe is paying more for.
And that's one big difference. So at the end of the first Trump administration, they started publishing quality scores. And so that data is now finally available. I mean, the industry has fought it for so many years, but we're finally to a point in 2025 where you can understand quality data. There's two kinds of quality data. There's the survey-based, opinion-based, did I like the way that they greeted me kind of thing, and that matters. But to me, the quality data that is the most profound is I can see which surgeon puts people back in the hospital, which surgeon creates more complications. That's what I'm actually worried about. Yeah. You can be mean to me as long as you're great at your job.
Absolutely.
And we know that now, and we publish that now. So you can choose, and you don't have to take our word for it. You can look at the data set and make your own decision. And again, in the Lantern partnership, we're not taking choice away, but we're going to encourage you with financial incentives to make what we think is a better choice, and it'll be backed up by data that you can see for yourself.
Well, the part of that I think that's is interesting as well is that you're looking for opportunities not only to improve, and it's not just a cut back or it costs more. Right. It's a cost effect, yes, but at the same time, that cost benefit analysis is going to give you better service, and as long as that's being done, it seems to be kind of a no-brainer.
Right. Communication is ultimately the challenge, right? Helping people understand what it is we're doing, why it is we're doing it. There's so much in healthcare that has always felt like I'm just trying to cheat you out of something. Yeah. And this is not that. This is trying to set up a situation where you win, the provider wins, the health system wins too. And it's good for everybody. And we're not trying to hide that. The providers will do better by participating in this program. The members will do better by participating in this program. So will state health plan. Where we can find those, and we can find a lot of those in healthcare, we're going to need to communicate them very aggressively so people understand it, because people should be suspicious. The history of healthcare has been trying to disadvantage people and trying to hide costs. And this is not that. This is a different approach. I think it will work because we have some unique characteristics as a state health plan, but it is changing the behavior of the system, which is never easy.
Absolutely. And we add all that when you're trying to do these kinds of things and try to tweak that one particular part of it, then this other huge environment out here, everything from tariffs to, trying to get more jobs in the country and all of these kinds of things tends to get folks a little bit dazed. It's a bit, how should I put it, overwhelming for the average person.
It's overwhelming for everyone. There's so many different things going on, so many different changes. I mean, I do take a lot of comfort in kind of understanding the narrative, and that's that we've forgotten as a country about a lot of people who are hardworking Americans who do great things for our country. And we have over-indexed on people who are focused outside this country.
Absolutely.
And we've got to stop that. And it's pretty clear that we are stopping that. We also have to realize that China is not our friend. And I think we're finally, and that's both parties, realizing that we've got to have a different alternative to them as our sole supplier for anything, which is to the benefit of a lot of communities in our state.
Absolutely. And Brad, I'll be honest with you, sometimes I get so caught up in conversation with a guest, I don't even know whether this is the last segment of the show or we've got one more segment. So I'm hoping we got one more segment because I've got a couple of issues I really want to kind of touch on today. Sure. And I think you'll find those important. But the healthcare piece deserved that additional conversation, because I think that's the big thing right now, media-wise, and it's touching folks, especially retirees. It's huge for retirees because a lot of them are carrying their families well on that state plan.
Right. Yeah, the retirees continue to have a fantastic benefit because the premium for retirees is zero, and that is enshrined in law. So that's always going to be zero. But yes, the dependents of the retirees are a different matter, and we're trying to keep those low as well.
And then you mentioned 770 plus thousand. Then you can do the multiplier on that and see how many that then touches other people.
Absolutely.
So it gets up in, the millions very quickly when I think we're looking at that.
We are in every single county in the state, one of the top 3 payers for healthcare.
Wow.
So we touch the health system everywhere from Murphy to Manteo. And that is something that I think we can do a better job of helping to shape the direction of healthcare for the entire state with. But of course, Medicare and Medicaid are the 2 biggest ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so they matter too. And what's going on there is going to influence all of this too.
Well, we're coming up on the last part of the show, so we're going to take a break. When we come back, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stay tuned. When we come back with a couple of issues, if we can work them in. But stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back in one moment.
Looking to refresh your home? At Clinton Appliance and Furniture, we've got everything you need to create the perfect space. We're here to help make your house a home with stylish furniture, appliances, flooring, design services, delivery, and repair. Visit ClintonAppliance.com to explore our selection or visit us at 401 Northeast Boulevard in Clinton. Shop local. Shop smart. Shop Clinton Appliance and Furniture. At Fisher's, it's not just about fashion. It's about exceptional service. Experience top-notch customer care and find your perfect look. Visit Fisher's today and feel the difference.
At the Reedy Mark, we take pride in a unique, distinguished customer experience. We specialize in handcrafted cocktails, allocated bourbons, as well as gourmet signature food items exclusive to our menu at the Reedy Mark in Roseboro.
The average American household has 17 devices connected to the internet. With more and more devices able to get online, you may need to increase your internet speed. Call Star Communications today and let us help you select the package that's right for you.
This year, when you get together with friends, we hope you have a great time. Just remember to drink responsibly and know your limits.
Let me have your keys.
And always have a safe way home.
See ya. Later.
Enjoy responsibly and always plan ahead.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks for being with us today. We're coming up on the last part of the show. We're talking with Brad Briner, the treasurer of the state of North Carolina. Brad, thank you for being here and taking the time. And also thank you for deciding to endeavor in this position that sometimes folks would not walk in because it's such a storm, but you've been doing it since January.
Yeah. Well, it's fun for me. I mean, that's what I think people miss is I think this stuff is really interesting. I always have.
Well, it's definitely in your wheelhouse. I mean, when you look back at your history, and I just read part of what your background was, but you definitely got the expertise to do it. I want to touch on something that, actually a couple of things, but I want to try to get this in definitely. And I've asked a number of bankers. I've reached out to people in different positions in finance, and I can't seem to get anybody to really just sit down and help us understand it. So I'm now in a position, so here it comes.
All right.
And in the reports, you've been, should I say, allowed to use about 5% into something called crypto.
Sure.
Crypto and Bitcoin has got so much confusion, and I want you to try to help us through that. And we might be talking about a whole nother show. You might not have time.
It's a big topic.
Yeah. So just kind of give us where you look at it from the state public funds aspect, where it is now, and as you talked about AI a while ago, where crypto and Bitcoin may be in the future. The big question I always get is where's the tangibility? And I'm going, I don't know. So I'm just give you an opportunity to speak to that.
No, it is a fascinating topic. So I have to give a plug for my team who puts out a financial literacy newsletter every month. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart. But my team does a fantastic job, Loretta and Brent particularly, putting that together. This month's episode, which was released last Friday, is all about digital assets and Bitcoin. So you can go through that to your heart's delight. Go to nctreasurer.gov. It's right there on the front page of the website. You can read all about a lot of detail of this topic. But I guess it's worth going back to the beginning of Bitcoin to understand what it is and what it was meant to be. So it all started in 2009. And if you remember 2009, that was when all the banks were failing and we had too big to fail and we had the auto companies going away and it was not fun.
Very scary.
Very. And it was a time when everybody rightly was questioning, what do banks do for me? And should I trust them? So the idea behind Bitcoin was, can I create something that I don't have to trust the banks? And it came out of that. So the idea is a currency that has a finite supply that doesn't require the permission of any intermediary like a bank to use, or a government for that matter. So governments were not exactly distinguishing themselves back in 2009 either. So this was the motive. Can I create a currency that a government can't ruin and that a bank can't take from me? So that's where Bitcoin came from, and that's what it does. Mm-hmm. So what is a currency? A currency is something that we agree has value. So you've got a piece of paper in your wallet. It's about 2 by 6 in terms of inches. It's made mostly of cotton. There's some linen in it. It's got some weird symbols on it. Why do you think it has any value? What could you actually do with it? You could burn it, I suppose. But it has value because we agree it has value. Now, people talk about the full faith and credit of the United States government and the taxing authority, and all of that is true, but it's not really relevant in the moment, is it? What are you going to do? Go to Washington, D.C. with your $1 bill and demand gold? They're going to look at you sideways. So in the end, currencies exist because people believe that they have value and agree that we can use them as a medium of exchange. Over time, Bitcoin has become that. It is worth an aggregate almost $2 trillion. So this is not a rounding error. This is not a fly-by-night thing. This is a major institutional asset at this point with hundreds of thousands of holders who use it to exchange. So it looks like a currency to me. The last question I had was, is the government going to ban it? Because there's a dozen countries or so around the world who've either banned it or severely limited its use, in which case it's definitely not a currency. Well, we're going the other way as a country. And one of the things that I revere is individual liberty. That's what makes this country great. This is part and parcel with that. Now you have the Trump administration really leaning in and changing a lot of the rules to be pro-crypto. That, for me, removed the last objection to it. So I own it personally. I don't know if it's going to replace the US dollar in the very long time scale, but it's an asset that has got increasing adoption and likely to have more so over time. And that's something that I want to be in front of. Digital assets more broadly, there are all sorts of varieties of them. Bitcoin is maybe the gold standard of digital assets. There are all sorts of assets on the far end of the spectrum that are nothing short of scams. So I think people often conflate those two things when they talk about digital assets. And I think it's fair to say that not all of them are created equal, and you should be very, very skeptical of some of the.
So it's a cautionary tale within itself. On the other end, and we had the Secretary of State on a while back, and she was talking about some of the scams that they've been investigating down in Wilmington and places, and I think that caused people a lot of pause. Well, how do I differentiate between what has some solidness to it versus what is just clearly trash, so to speak?
Buyer beware to some degree. I would be very careful and do your homework before buying anything in the securities market, but particularly in the digital assets market, because it has a lot less regulation by design. So for me, Bitcoin and Ethereum are the two that are pretty clearly here to stay. Beyond that, there's some names, but we don't need to go into them, that maybe and likely are here to stay. If it's just been created and it's probably named after an individual, I would probably stay away. That seemed designed to fail.
We could call that a red flag.
We could, maybe more than a red flag. So there was a bill introduced earlier this year, and that gave the state treasurer the ability in its initial draft to buy up to 10% of the state pension plans in Bitcoin and to hold the keys themselves. Now, if you know much about digital assets, the holder of the keys is the holder of the gold. When people hold keys to Bitcoin of that magnitude, the same thing almost always happens, and that's they get kidnapped. So we rapidly asked to have that bill changed. And so what it now allows, and it's through the House, but it hasn't been passed by the Senate, is for us to own up to 5%, and we can use other methods to hold it that are much safer than me holding the keys.
You want to make sure folks understand Brad Briner does not hold the key.
I do not.
Make that clear to start.
One of the biggest news stories for us this year was our office building in Raleigh actually got broken into.
Wow.
I think it was in March. And we're in an office park. And so all the buildings in the office park got broken into. We're just one of them. So it was completely random. But people love the idea, maybe love is the wrong word, that the Department of State Treasury got broken into. They were looking for all the money. I hate to break it to you folks, we don't have any money on site. It's all, exists in the digital world these days. But the same is true with digital assets. They are ledger entries somewhere, not at our office. I should make it clear.
But don't you say that's a step forward for Bitcoin and crypto, that the state was willing to step up and say, hey, even if it's 5%, 10%, we're willing to invest in that. That's huge, in my opinion.
It is. And whether it's a great investment for the retirement system or it belongs somewhere else within the state government, that's a different question that we could certainly debate. But I think it gets more to the point of, why are we number one in business as a state? It's because we're embracing change. We are recruiting new businesses, and we are building the infrastructure, and we've got the people and the talents of those people, and we've got wonderful climate and all the other things, financially well managed as a state on top of it. It all goes together. into making North Carolina such a wonderful place to be. But you've got to lean forward, not blindly.
Yeah.
But you've got to take new innovations and incorporate them into your business plans and incorporate them into your desires as a state too.
A couple of other things. We're coming up in about 2 or 3 minutes here before we're going to have to take off. One of the things I want to mention is that, 15 years or so ago, if a person retired, a COLA retirees averaged about 3% a year.
Yeah.
We hadn't seen that in a long time.
We have not.
Should we look forward as retirees in the state? We're talking a lot of state retirees today.
Yeah.
If they're looking forward, should they look forward to the possibility of seeing that 2-3% COLA coming back?
By far the hardest call I get to my office is a retiree in that situation who retired a decade ago, has not gotten a cost of living adjustment, and inflation over that period is maybe 40%. And they say, I can't make ends meet, and whose fault is it? And the truth is, it's not the General Assembly's fault, and it's certainly not their fault. It's the investment program's fault. We've been letting them down for a long period of time. That's why we can't have COLAs. We're not there yet. But certainly I would love, as treasurer, to be in a position for the local system, which is the worst of these in terms of offering cost of living adjustments. I'd love to be in a position to recommend that in 2026 or 7, probably 7 at this point. It is not a legal obligation of the state to offer cost of living adjustments. I think that's a misconception that somehow that's been promised. It's never been promised. But that doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. And we got to get there.
Yeah, and because, a lot of folks that I talk to talk about, I basically invested my entire life in public service. And the need to do that, I think, is not necessarily, like you said, something that is required to do, but it's something that you basically say, we appreciate that. Plus, I think it opens the door wider for those folks that are, planning to teach or come into the system, whether it's DOT or whatever it may be. It says, there's a future there for me.
Absolutely. And we've got to get back there. I think we will. We've had a really strong year this year, which allows that conversation to be probably sooner than we thought it would be. Knock on wood that we hold those gains. But no, I think everyone agrees that we need to get back there. The question is how and how quickly.
Mr. Treasurer, I want to thank you for being with us today. We've come up, time's up pretty short here. I want to give you about 15, 20 seconds. Anything you want to add for closure? And just thank you for being here.
I appreciate the time and thank you for everything you do. I guess the thing that I would say in closing is the common theme across everything we do is trying to find wins that can exist and will persist for the people of North Carolina. When you set up solutions that are long-term oriented, where everybody as part of it, whether it's in healthcare or the investment system, wins from their success, they're durable. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to take from one person, give to the other. We're trying to make everybody win across everything we do, which allows it to be successful in the long run. So that's the prevailing ethos of the Department of State Treasurer. I got 483 people who work for me. They all get that. They are doing a fantastic job for the state of North Carolina. So that's where I want to leave us, just thanking my people.
Well, again, thank you for being here. You definitely got the energy and knowledge to make it happen. So after this show today, I've got a big expectation of you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week on We Should Know right here. And may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.